Perfect. I'm seeing some more people hop in, so we'll get started here in just a minute. See 12:32 on my clock. Let's get it going. So I just want to give everyone a huge thank you for joining us. I'm so excited to introduce your speaker for today's Hug. He is a longtime member and a friend of the Hug. If you've seen him speak at a meetup before, you know exactly why I'm so excited to hear him speak today. He has 20 plus years of experience living in the center of a product, marketing, sales, self-care kind of Venn diagram. And right now he serves as the fractional chief growth officer, a startup advisor, and an entrepreneur coach. He's been helping startups launch, companies grow, and entrepreneurs find their happiness. Plus, I've got to say, his philosophy of incorporating self-care into his work, life, teaching, and consulting practices is truly something special. I wish we were all in the same room to give him a huge thunderous applause, but I'll give him a little golf clap for us. So ladies, gentlemen, HubSpot users of all genders, please welcome GB Freeman.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak today and the opportunity to share a little bit of content, or at least my philosophy. I appreciate everybody taking time out of their day as well. I do have probably 30, 40 minutes of content. But if you have questions, please make sure and post those in the chat. I will do my best to kind of watch that chat window a little bit. If it takes me a little bit to notice, don't be surprised. So what I wanted to do today is give you an opportunity to see what an aligned sales and marketing department look like and feel like, and specifically one path to doing that. I know a lot of people that want their sales and marketing teams to be aligned, and they set goals and mission statements and OKRs at the beginning of the year and say, we're going to align sales and marketing. But it's challenging to do. So the way that I approach a lot of my work with companies is to create a process and a task that eventually aligns the sales and marketing departments together. So this one, we're going to align sales and marketing and content strategy. We do that a lot of times through technology. I align and connect people through technology, and what we're going to try and get to at the end of the day today is really 10 fairly straightforward steps to building a drip campaign that will help you close deals. I will tell you that the content that I'm going to present today, I will use a couple of examples that are super simple when we talk about the buyer's journey, but what I'm going to present today is often better suited for longer sales cycles, higher value deals, and B2B scenarios. So some of this can be adapted towards B2C, but it has to be a longer sales cycle, because what we're really doing is building a drip campaign. And if I need something tomorrow, it's unlikely that I'm going to sign up for your email list. It's unlikely that I'm going to end up in your CRM and be marketed to over the course of months. So just a little bit about me. What I like to say is having an idea is the easy part. I can help with the rest. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I help a lot of software startups, product-based companies launch. I help companies that want to build a product. So HubSpot's one of the best examples for companies that took the inbound methodology and they literally built a product around that methodology. And that's a lot of times what I help companies do. From a fractional chief growth officer perspective, I really work across management, product, marketing, and sales. Those are the four departments that I sort of cross over. And when you can have more and more alignment, you just get more done. And then finally, a lot of times I work with founders who've built something and they're unhappy. They thought that building something, they thought that making money was going to make them happy, and unfortunately it doesn't. So then we have to figure out what is going to make them happy. So on to the content. One of the questions that I frequently ask, and if you've been to a HubSpot user group or a presentation that I presented at before, you may have seen this exact slide. And I think it's incredibly important for marketers to ask the question, why is it that we're marketing? And the answer, whether marketers like it or not, is to sell stuff. I know a lot of marketers who come out of traditional marketing education, and they think that it's to build brand reputation or to get engagement. And those are tactical, operational things that we are doing marketing for. I agree that we need to be successful at the operational level, but in the end, we're really trying to sell stuff. And I would also say that if you're a nonprofit, you might not be selling a thing, you might not be selling a service, but you might be selling mind share. You might be selling some level of interest and compassion that is going to bring dollars into the door. So really you are selling yourself at a high level. So I always ask marketers to pause and say, how much am I interested in selling? And if you are not interested in selling, then I'm going to give you a couple of ideas to maybe become more interested. And the other thing that I want to remind people is 50% of qualified leads aren't ready to buy, especially in a longer sales cycle. We have tire kickers that are out there just seeing what's available. And we need to figure out a better way to nurture those folks. And that's really what we're going to try to do today. Now, some of you might laugh when you see this, but marketing oftentimes sees sales as this character on the left, and sales oftentimes looks at marketing as this character on the right. Now, I hate to say it, but stereotypes are stereotypes because they're true. Some of them are old stereotypes, but there is some truth in this. I would say that there is a lot of untruth in this as well. But I think that we have to be aware of the stereotypes that we're walking into, especially as the new generation of digital marketers continue to enter the workforce at a younger and younger age. And we have an older generation of very traditional salespeople. That's where those stereotypes exist. But let me tell you, that's where the decisions are made. Some of those older salespeople, some of those executives that have been in your industry for 30 or 40 years, they might look like the guy on the left, they might act like the guy on the left, and they might be making decisions like that. And they may still be thinking that marketing looks like the guy on the right. So I just want to say this isn't always the truth, but it's sort of what we could be walking into, especially in an older industry, an industry that's been around a long time, maybe an industry that is more manufacturing based. This could absolutely be some of the stereotypes that you're looking at. So I like to say, be the change you want to see in the world, in the company, in your office. I oftentimes, when I'm working with founders, when I'm working with entrepreneurs and even coaching clients, I say, you have to represent the energy that you want to see in this room. So I'm going to tell you right now, on the sales side, it's your fault if you don't know what sales enablement content is available or how much of it is being sent to your customers. You would be amazed at the number of times that I talk to sales reps, account execs, even directors of sales who say, yeah, I have no idea what marketing is sending my customers. If you don't understand how branding impacts your marketing, your product, or your service, then ask for some cross-training. You need to, if you're a salesperson and you have these two characteristics, you need to embed yourself with marketing. Now, vice versa, if you haven't listened to a sales call in the last 90 days, then you don't know the current market challenges and opportunities. Now, it's even more so today with COVID that there are potentially greater challenges and greater opportunities that you might not know about if you are unwilling to embed yourself with the sales team. Now, in some of the best, most highly functioning companies that I work with, there is oftentimes a CRO, a chief revenue officer, who controls both the marketing, or at least oversees both the marketing and the sales channels. But if you have a director of sales and you have a director of marketing and they're not very well connected, I would encourage you to start building a little bit of an exchange program. Have your marketing people embed with sales, have your salespeople embed with marketing, get on sales calls. Salespeople learn what branding is and why it's important. Some of the biggest companies have spent billions of dollars on branding. It's sort of like organic SEO. I like to tell companies that organic SEO is like compound interest. It costs a little bit up front to do it, but once you have built enough compound interest, then the leads start coming in automatically. It's the same way with brand. If I tell you, who do you think of or what company do you think of when you think of a polar bear? You obviously think Coke. Coke has spent billions of dollars creating these characters out of polar bears, and whether they're using them today or not, we still think of them. And sales, that is all about branding. And I know a lot of salespeople who don't care truly about branding or what it's used for. So just a couple of caveats or some expectations to set the stage today. Most of you are familiar with the funnel, and I'm not going to spend any real time talking about this other than to say that, prior to 99, we used to have two funnels. In 99, Seth Godin started talking about permission marketing, and we really started talking about inbound leads and customers wanting information. So we added a little bit, a few phases to the top of the funnel, in this case, the left of the funnel. And that's sort of where marketing played. And marketing would generate a lead, you'd pitch it over to the sales team, and the sales team was supposed to do something with it. And then if something didn't come of it, it sort of died. Over the course of the best companies are now pitching those leads back over to marketing to be nurtured. And that's really what we're talking about today. And we're going to combine the departments to try and create a nurture sequence, or at least content ideas that really reflect the needs of the customers. Because unfortunately, marketing is often out of touch with customers. Marketing designs things, they write things, but very rarely do those marketers actually get to talk to customers. And sometimes that's sales' fault. Sometimes sales doesn't want marketing in on the calls. And that's a cultural barrier that I think everybody needs to look at. If that's the culture in your company, try and figure out a way for marketing, again, to get embedded in sales. Now, where we're at today, I do appreciate the concept of the flywheel that HubSpot talks about. I will also say that this is a very meta approach to sales, that this is not a single customer engagement that the flywheel represents. It's about the constant and ongoing creation of marketing collateral and creating marketing juice that then fills the funnel again. And we're not really talking about that today. We're talking about the life cycle and journey of a single customer and how we can develop content for that single customer. So I do agree with this. I like the concept. It's just not exactly what we're going to refer to today. So I don't know if everybody on the call is marketing focused or sales focused, but if you are a traditional marketer and haven't spent time on the sales side or vice versa, I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview. The whole goal here is to take a stranger, move them onto a website visitor or a blog visitor, move them into a lead, move them into a customer, and then finally move them to an evangelist. Some of my best leads come from referrals. So as long as I can convert somebody to an evangelist, they're going to help me move strangers to leads and customers much more quickly. That's the whole goal. That's really the flywheel concept that we looked at on the previous page. But on an individual customer or company or account or opportunity basis, we look at two different kind of funnels. The marketing approach looks at awareness, consideration, and decision, which we're going to talk about here in a moment. And then sales looks at very generally, you might have a very complicated sales process, a very simple sales process, but we take suspects, people who might be interested in our product, and a lot of times we consider them maybe marketing qualified leads, if that's the terminology you use. Then we move them to prospects. They are actually interested in purchasing our service. That might be a sales qualified lead or a sales accepted lead. And then we move them into the sales process, so they become a part of our pipeline. And that's usually where they're going to live in the CRM somewhere. And the sales team, the account execs, are going to be doing something with them while they're in the pipeline. And then finally, we close them as a won lead or a lost lead. So in the previous funnels, that used to be marketing up front, sales at the back, the twain shall never meet. And I want to offer one thing that we know today is that even though that we think of things in a funnel, our customers don't really behave in the funnel sense. When HubSpot first came out, they used to say, we're going to create awareness stage content, and if someone downloads this piece of content, they must be in the awareness stage, which means that we have to move them through consideration and decision. And we know that that's not the way that customers work today. A customer that is in the decision phase may download a piece of awareness content, a person in the awareness phase may download a piece of decision content, and they may move back and forth through that buyer's journey endlessly until they get ready to actually sign the deal. So the way that I look at this is a little bit different. I look at sales and marketing from a very integrated approach. On the left side is marketing. They have their funnel. On the right side is sales. They have their funnel, but they are deeply, deeply connected. Now, the way that I separate the duties and responsibilities of this is marketing. I absolutely want you to be responsible for design and copy. You are the copywriters. You are the designers. You are the content strategists. You are the search engine optimization research experts. Sales does not have those skills. Oftentimes, sales doesn't have those skills. That's not what they're hired for. Salespeople are hired to open and close deals. So marketing, I want you to be responsible for design and copy, but I also want sales to know what that design and copy looks like. And I also want sales to know that you are now responsible for deciding who gets what content and when. So marketing can create content for you, and you get to choose when you send it and to whom you send it to. Right now, what happens is marketing, somebody fills out a form and we automatically drop somebody into a random nurture sequence that they may or may not be fit for. Wouldn't it be smarter if somebody had a lead come in the door and we actually had a salesperson or an account exec talk to them, and then based on the output of that conversation, then we decided which campaign, which nurture sequence they needed. Maybe they don't need a nurture sequence right now. Maybe they're still too far up in the funnel for me to actually send them nurture content. Maybe they need to maybe I need to finish a discovery call. Maybe I need to get a little bit more information before I can decide. So I want to, the end of this presentation, I want marketing to understand what they can do to help create and design content and what sales can do to actually help send that content to the right person at the right time. So step one, this should be, especially for people on this group, unless it's your very first time or you're not HubSpot certified or you haven't been through all of the HubSpot training or done any of the pre-marketing work. If you're brand new, you understand that you're probably going to have to define the personas. Now, something else that as I go through these slides, you're going to see some stuff at the bottom that says sales focused or marketing focused in here. So what I want to say is marketing will be facilitating most of these conversations and the process. But the focus of these steps can shift back and forth between more marketing focused and more sales focused. And what you're going to find is that in this case, marketing is doing most of the work, but it's very much sales focused. What I am proposing is that marketers through these 10 steps begin to become better salespeople. And if you can, as a marketer, if you can sell your product, marketing is way easier. So this one is going to be for defining your personas. Oftentimes marketers think that this is a marketing focused activity. It is a marketing transacted activity. Marketers are the ones creating the personas, but we have to engage our sales team, and even better, we have to engage our prospects. If you have prospects who are willing to spend 10 or 15 minutes sitting down with you and answering questions, that is the best possible thing that you can do. So in this case, we're going to create a really simple persona. Sniffling Sam is a 45-year-old male. He's got an $80,000 per year income. He's married with a couple of kids, and he's got a mortgage and 2 cars. Super, super simple persona. And again, if you're not really familiar with personas, this is a semi-fictional representation of a cohort or a group of prospects. So we think that on average, this is kind of what our this specific prospect looks like. The goal is to decrease the semi-fictional part of this as much as possible. We want to squeeze as much fiction out of our personas as possible. Now, this is going to be a very simple example, but if you are in a B2B world, you likely have at least 2 personas. You probably have an influencer persona and you have a decision maker persona. Those could be 2 very different personas. For instance, a company that I'm working with today, we have a data scientist persona. They're uber geeky. They are working in code and working in data all day long. They care about different things. They use different software. The other persona, our decision maker persona, is probably a CTO, is probably a director level. They care about entirely different things as well. So at a minimum in the B2B world, you're probably going to have two personas. If it's in the B2C world, depending on the product, maybe your product is being purchased by a child, the decision maker is the parent, something like that. So you need to decrease the fictionality of your personas as much as possible. Step two, once you got the personas created, now we're going to move into buyer's journey questions. And I have a worksheet. I'll give you the link to the worksheet at the end of the presentation, but here is one of the worksheets that we are going to use. And we're going to start with awareness questions. So in awareness, the buyer realizes that they have a problem. The stuff, this little thing on the right is actually pulled straight from the HubSpot website. The prospect is experiencing and expressing symptoms of a problem or an opportunity. They're doing educational research to more clearly understand the frame and give a name to their problem. Now, the problem that Sniffling Sam has is he woke up with some white spots on the back of his throat. His throat hurts, not feeling very well. And he says, what's going on? Why do I not feel well? And he walks into the bathroom and he sees these white spots. And what's the first thing we do? We become our own doctor and we call Dr. WebMD and we start figuring out what's going on. Now, the first questions that Sam is going to ask, because he doesn't know what his problem is yet. He is investigating his symptoms. Why do I have spots on my throat? What causes white patches on your tonsils? He might have a number of different questions that he is going to begin asking to determine what his problem is. So in this worksheet, you are going to sit down with your sales team and you are going to figure out what questions your customers are asking very early in the buying process. Actually, it's pre-buying process. They don't even know what they're shopping for yet. They're trying to solve a problem. And your salespeople are going to know these questions much better oftentimes than marketing will. So what I'm going to propose is the first step is setting down with your sales team, going through these awareness questions. So this is a very simple example that we're using for medical, but you'll know that you'll notice up here, Sniffling Sam is on the axis here. Here is one persona. I could have 3 to maybe even 5 personas. I would try and keep it 2 or 3 personas if you're just starting this exercise. I would try and keep the personas down to a minimum, and maybe you have an influencer persona and a decision maker persona. But your personas are going to ask different questions. Your data scientist is going to ask different questions than your CTO is, and you need to know which questions are being asked by which personas, because it could affect the drip campaign that you're building. If you have the resources to build a drip campaign for both personas, that's fantastic. In the beginning, we might just have resources to build one. So we do that for our awareness stage. We move into consideration stage. The prospect is now clearly defined and given a name to their problem. So now I'm saying I have strep throat. I know I have strep throat because I've already done some research. I've already found some content. And now I need to figure out how to solve my problem. So these are the questions that now Sniffling Sam is going to start asking. And again, sales knows what questions these are much better than marketing. What marketing tends to focus on is they jump ahead. They don't look at the questions. They oftentimes look at content, and they look at content by figuring out keyword research. A lot of times people will go in and search for, do SEO research, and they will compare it to the keywords that their competition is ranking for. And that is absolutely one marketing path to build traction and to build traffic on your website. But what I am trying to get you to do today is to build content that is very specifically focused on how to close more deals and to maybe cut a sales cycle down from 9 months to 6 months. If we can give people the content that they need in the sales process, we can move them through the sales process faster. We can increase conversion rates. We can increase the rate of closed won deals. So in this case, in consideration, how much does it cost to go to the emergency room? Should I go to the emergency room or urgent care? What should I do if I have strep throat? Now we're going to find out options to solve our problem. I'm going to find out emergency room is an option. I'm going to find out urgent care is an option. I'm going to find out whether going to my GP is an option. Maybe just using some holistic health option. All of those are multiple options that your client, now that they, or your prospect, now that they know what their problem is, they're going to be searching for various options. Your salespeople are going to know the options that they're searching for. They might pop up a new competitor. They might pop up a totally new, like, secondary option or replacement competition. So you might think that you're selling product A in the category A, but your potential prospects might be using software in a completely different category. It's something that you might not have even thought about. And your salesperson is going to be able to come to you and say, yeah, this prospect didn't even buy a piece of software in our category. They went to something completely different. They took a whole different approach to solving their problem that we've never thought about. That's a huge opportunity for you as a marketer to start writing content about why you should not use that alternative approach and why you should use something more standard. The final worksheet in the buyer's journey is decision questions. So prospect has decided on their solution, and now they need to figure out which solution provider they're going to work with. So, which urgent care near me, or which urgent cares are near me, which one am I going to drive the least amount of distance for, which ones take my insurance. This is the first time, again, this is the first time that you are talking about your specific product, service, or solution. Up to this point, we haven't talked about ourselves, ever. We need to inform customers, we need to educate customers without swaying them with our name and shoving our brand in front of them. Now that we figured out that the customer wants to go to an urgent care, now is where we start differentiating ourselves between these different options, between our different competition. So here's the first time we're going to start using our brand name. And again, sales is going to get down. This is where we get down to the feature level or the service offering level. Here's what I do so much better than my competition does. And if you have not talked to your salespeople in a while, maybe you have a product, maybe you have a software product that has new features and you don't know what all those new features are, you could be learning on a sales call what new feature is selling the best for this new type of customer that you're talking to. Step 3, we're going to document sales objections. This is another thing that marketers are oftentimes left out of. The first thing, part of the Sandler sales technique, one of the techniques that you would use if you're selling maybe B2B shorter sales cycle offerings is Sandler. And one of the things that they talk about is upfront sales objections. You cover the objections upfront with potential prospects. And these sales objections are gold mines for content. Sitting down with your sales team and saying, what are the primary objections that our customers have when you're talking to them? And they're going to say things like, well, the biggest problem that we have right now is patients can't schedule online. They hit our website, but they can't schedule online. So in that case, as a marketer, you're going to need to, maybe your development team is working on online scheduling, but it's not integrated with your scheduling platform yet, so you know it's coming. So first of all, you can sort of decrease some of the objections by saying online scheduling coming soon. That's still not going to be a super help to people. And you could say, we've added additional representatives for faster scheduling, and we'll guarantee if you call us that we'll get you in within 15 minutes. So creating content around these objections and making sure that your customers find that content quickly and easily is super important. Now imagine we're in a longer sales cycle, maybe an 8-month B2B $100,000 sales cycle. Overcoming some of these objections really quickly is going to be very helpful to your sales team. You might be able to overcome an objection and continue the sales process, or you might actually bring up an objection that might be a deal breaker for the sales team. It costs a lot of money to actually transact an 8-month sales cycle. $5,000, $10,000 could be your client acquisition cost. So if you can kick somebody out of the sales process because of an objection early on by creating content that is very informative and real, then you might actually decrease the amount of time that sales is wasting. So I would recommend, if you haven't done objection level content yet with your sales team, I would actually do this first, even before buyer's journey stuff. Anything that you can create for objection level content is going to help them a lot. Step 4, SEO research. This is where we're going to move very much under the marketing bucket. Your sales team isn't really going to understand the need for SEO research. And what I'm going to tell you to do is break this up into 2 buckets. Most of you either are hiring a company or you're doing your own SEO research. And I would say start with your broad-based and traffic-based keyword research. This is usually pretty easy stuff. This is high volume, low competition keywords. Most people have already started on this if you are creating content. The second one, as you are now beginning to create maybe a little bit different content, I'm going to propose that you layer in what we would call commercial intent type of keyword research, and then also long tail keyword research. As you start creating more content, you're going to have an opportunity to pick up more long tail keywords. Instead of driving people to a landing page or to your home page, you can now start driving people to very specific blog posts or downloads or white papers or ebooks that you've created. So the commercial intent content, if you're not familiar with this, commercial intent is sort of lumped into 3 categories. Informational commercial intent is searches performed to answer questions or learn something. Navigational commercial intent is searches performed to locate a specific website. And then the one that we're most interested in right now is transactional commercial intent. And this is searches performed to buy something. So if you're selling a widget, in this case, you're going to want to find people that are searching for the words buy, discount, deal, coupon, free shipping. Now, if you are in the B2B world, if you're selling services, these words are probably not going, you're not going to say, I need to buy a lawyer. It might be the word hire. If the word hire comes in a search key or in a search string, and it comes right next to lawyer, that person is already in the transactional mode. And you can begin writing content that specifically targets transactional level content. The left-hand side going to be much higher level, more meta SEO, organic search engine optimization. The right-hand side is going to be very specific buying intent. So I've done some keyword research, SEO work. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do an impact versus effort analysis. And this is going to be a combination of marketing and sales. Sales is going to know what content is going to help them the most. Marketing is going to know what content is going to potentially drive the most traffic to the website. Through their SEO research, they're going to know traffic scores, and the sales team is going to understand what is going to close the most deals. So what I propose is using a matrix like this. So if you look in the top left, high impact, low effort content is great. It is the easiest stuff to create. We want to create stuff that takes this little amount of effort and creates this high amount of impact. So when we score this, notice these 2 things are reversed. So low impact gets a score of 1. High impact gets a score of 5. Low effort gets a score of 5. High effort gets a score of 1. What we're going to do is add up our impact and effort scores, and the highest scores are actually going to be the content that you begin creating first. If you can start creating content quickly and easily with your sales team, and the sales team begins using some of this quick and easy content, and they're like, holy crap, marketing's creating actual good content that I can send out to my prospects, they will begin wanting to help you create even more content. So if you can get quick wins, this is the way to get sales and marketing connected as quickly as possible. So the quick wins for us are going to be low effort and high impact. So what that looks like on the worksheet, we've already got our questions, we've already got our personas. And now I'm going to start scoring impact and effort. And I'm going to add these two things up. My impact and effort score for this first topic is going to be a 10. And it's going to be higher than the second one. So I would obviously want to develop content for the first one. Now, I want to also note here, we are not yet talking about blog titles or the title of our infographic. We haven't figured out what is going to go into this content. We haven't figured out what type of content. It's coming up here in just a second, but I want you to stay focused on the buyer's journey. Stay focused on the problems and the questions that your people are asking, rather than focusing on content first and then shoving it like a square peg in a round hole to say, okay, I've got this great idea for content. Now, how do I make it work for sales? We need to go the opposite direction. Start with sales and figure out how marketing can adapt. So step 6, outline the hero's journey. Now, if you are an avid reader or you actually like Lord of the Rings, you are probably going to understand the hero's journey. Again, very sales-focused approach, but in 1949, Joseph Campbell wrote The Hero with a Thousand Faces, and this is kind of the monomyth that tells many of the stories that we experience on stage and screen. And you can also think of this as a 3-act play. So something happens in Act 1, then we have a climax in Act 2, and then we have some resolution in Act 3. This is sort of a cartoon of the hero's journey. So I have this call to adventure, and I meet some interesting mentor. So Frodo meets Gandalf, and he goes on his way to Mordor. And through the process, he experiences some trials and some failures. He picks up some new skills. He has this revelation along his journey that is going to change his life. And then he achieves his goal and then returns home with new information. This is the hero's journey. This is the journey that our patients would take if we were in the medical field. This is the journey that our customers will take if we can move them through this process of figuring out what their pain is, figuring out how to solve their pain, and then making them feel good about it. At the end, they will become evangelists for us. And I want to note over on the left-hand side here, it says your prospect's hero's journey should focus on feelings over features. And I want to show you an example. This is just a graphic that I found. It looks from incrediblemarketing.com. I love the way that they have done this. They've taken the hero's journey and they have overlaid it on top of a medical patient's journey. So I have limited awareness of my health problems. I have increased awareness of health problems. I have fear resistance to see a doctor or accept reality. I am overcoming my fear. You will notice that we don't talk anything about features. We don't talk about why our hospital is better. We don't talk about any of those gritty details about the service or product that we're offering as a part of the patient's journey. This is a very emotional journey, and we need to create content that tugs at heartstrings, that reacts to emotions. Now, I'm going to lay this on top of another graphic that they gave for cancer treatment. What is life before cancer? Increased awareness that something is wrong, reluctant to seek medical attention, or I have a fear of the truth, seeking medical advice from a doctor, diagnosis and overcoming fear, committing to becoming cancer-free. You'll notice that now what this wheel has done is it's taking the questions and the topics from our previous sales exercises, from our worksheets. We're looking at objections, we're looking at awareness, decision, consideration stage topics, and we're laying them on top of the hero's journey to begin telling our own story. And what I want you to focus on is trying to tell a story as a marketer and a salesperson. So what do we do now that we've got that figured out? Well, there is this element of figuring out how much content that we need. And I don't want to go into this because it's very dependent upon your sales cycle. It's dependent upon the type of service or product that you're selling. But in this case, I'll just show you like an enterprise sales cycle. We might take a month to qualify them as a client or a prospect. Then we take 7 months that they're going through this big discovery process. And then we do a 3-month demo or a trial, and then it takes them about a month to pull all the decision makers together and decide whether or not they want to buy our product or somebody else's. Well, I can look at this and I can say, in a month, the first month, I want to send them 4 emails. Then during the discovery, since it's 7 months, I want to expand that out a little bit. And now I want to send them an email every 3 weeks. And then during the trial phase, I want to send them an email every 2 weeks. And then during decision phase, I want to send them an email every week. So here's one way that you can look at how much content you're going to create. And if I go back, keep in mind, these are topics. Life before cancer, that is a huge topic. I could probably, if I was in the field, I could probably create 50 pieces of content based on what life before cancer was like. So you need to figure out where this lines up to your sales cycle and begin creating content, the amount of content that you need. And then here's another worksheet. I can then begin dropping in the content topics inside of my marketing campaign map. In this specific topic or this specific worksheet, I have an awareness column, a consideration column, and a decision column. I could create 3 nurture sequences based on where the customer, or where in this case the patient, is at in their journey. Now the question you might be asking is, how does marketing know when somebody is in the awareness stage or the consideration stage? And I'm going to take the heat off of marketing and say, you don't need to know. You create the content with sales help. And in a moment, I'm going to show you how sales can be the decision maker of who gets what content and when, because sales knows where their prospects are at. Are they in awareness? Are they in consideration? Are they in decision? Have they regressed? Do we need to send them new awareness content? So on and so forth. All right, we're about done. We're going to do a content inventory and gap analysis. If you've already been creating content, you already have some stuff that's available. If you've been creating content for a long time, you might need to create very little content to actually get this rolled out. If you are now integrating your sales and marketing departments and going to kind of start from scratch with a new process, you might need to start creating a bunch of new content. But first of all, which questions and objections from our worksheets do we already have content for? And finally, which questions and objections will you need to create content? Again, we're not talking about I need to create a blog post versus a video versus an infographic yet. We're simply talking about the topics we will need to create content for, because step 8 is finally defining your content mix. We know the topics we need to create content for. Now I want to figure out what is the best type of content to address each topic. So can I create a blog post? Can I create a guest blog post on somebody else's blog? Can I create an assessment? Can I create a video? A lot of this is going to be budget constraints and time constraints. This, I think this infographic that I'm looking at here is from 2015. So there's probably even more content that you can create than what we're talking about in this one. But it will give you a good place to start to say, now I want to match up this topic with this format. And then finally, we want to pull in our keyword research again. This is marketing's chance to say, now I'm going to turn my hero's journey topics and ideas, and I'm going to start creating headlines or infographic titles for each one of the pieces of content that I'm missing. And if I can create very high value titles and content that relay back to my keyword content, now I'm going to create content that not only drives traffic to the website, but I'm also going to create content that converts traffic for people that are already in the sales process. Finally, we work with sales to create the outlines for that missing content. So do a quick interview and say, hey, we're going to be creating this blog post. Can you give me 3 to 5 points that I need to talk about to answer this specific question? Your sales team will be more than happy to give you that type of content. Then you get to go in, write, design, and deploy. So you actually get to begin writing this content, designing it, and getting it ready for deployment. This is a very marketing focused activity, but I'm going to give you 4 steps that will oftentimes help. And we have a clear separation of content and presentation. If you are a developer or if you are somebody who has worked with CSS before, some of the best websites, we have a very clear separation between content and presentation, which allows us at any point in time to change the presentation or the design, but the content can stay the same. So what I'm going to recommend is, first of all, marketing interview sales. You go get the content. You go back to your office and you write the content. Then you send that back to sales and they actually review and polish the content. Sales at this point in time does not have any input in the design. Now, maybe you're okay with sales having input in the design, but they're not designers. That's what you get paid for. So once the content is done, now marketing can go back and design it in whatever way they want to. Sales should be concerned about the content itself, who it gets sent to, and when it gets sent. Sales, as long as you can trust your marketing department, you need to let them be responsible for the design. So marketing, go back and design it, deploy it to whatever content marketing system you have. So in this case, we're talking about HubSpot. So get all of your emails ready to go. And then finally, you don't have to choose when this nurture campaign, when this content gets sent, because sales is going to do that for you. So here's the trick that I tell sales teams to do. Sales, you need to work with your IT people or whoever is managing your CRM. And I want you to add a campaign field on your lead record or your contact record, or your lead or contact objects, depending on if you use Salesforce or not. So in Salesforce, we have a lead object and a contact object. I want you to add a drop-down field into that object that says campaign. Marketing, every time you have a new campaign that is ready, a new drip campaign, a new email sequence that's ready to go, you need to go in to the CRM and add that to the drop-down field. Because sales at this point will be able to go in when they're working with a lead or an opportunity. They will open up that opportunity in the CRM. They will choose which campaign they want to actually send content to. And at that point, the marketing automation system will pick up the change in that field. It will add them to a new list and it will begin sending the content. Now, sales knows exactly what content is going to exactly which people at which time. They don't have to worry about what the content is, because they've helped draft it. They have come up with all of this content. All marketing had to do was facilitate the process, design it, and get it ready. In this case, I like to say, stop marketing to personas and start marketing to people. Marketing teams market to personas. Sales teams market to people. In this case, this gives the ability for sales to become super invested in what they're sending. And if they know that they can trigger a new campaign, they will be much more inclined to do that because they know what's going out the door. And they will continue to help you if you can continue to close deals. So that is it for me. I will kind of open it up to questions, and I'm going to turn it back over to LeapClicks folks. And you can handle questions however you'd like to.
You got it. Well, GB, have you had any questions in your chat so far?
I've got no questions. So either everybody checked out in the beginning, or I've just done such a spectacular job of answering everybody's questions that they're not asking them.
Well, guys, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in chat. We'll give you guys a couple of minutes just in case you're typing them up right now. And Shane or GB, if you've answered all of their questions, that's perfectly okay too. I know we can give everyone back, 10 minutes in their day, as they say.
And so on the screen, I don't know. I think I stopped sharing my screen. Let me share it one more time for you. Sorry. If you go to gbfreeman.com/blog, the newest post that I put up there is this content. So you can go to the blog. It will be the first blog post on there. You can fill out a form, get this presentation immediately. I'll also send it over to LeapClicks, and they can send it out with content as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, gb@gbfreeman.com. Hit me up on social media. Happy to connect and happy to answer any other questions. I don't see.
I haven't seen any come through either.
So I work for a small SaaS startup. I am the sales and marketing person. Any advice there? So I typically, this is what I do on a daily basis. So I work with SaaS startups, mobile apps, tech companies all day, every day. So do I have advice? Absolutely. I will, hold on just a second. Let me share one other slide for you. So this is a book that I wrote a couple of years ago. I have a book, I have a training course that I created primarily for entrepreneurs and SaaS founders. So this is a really good overview of all of the things that are going to pop up in a SaaS company or really just software company in general. And you can get a copy of this pretty quickly. Just download the content from gbfreeman.com. If you download the presentation, then click on this link for download your copy. You can get a copy of that. So I have lots of advice. If you want to chat offline, if you have specific questions, I'd be happy to help.
Perfect. Well, GB, thank you so much for your time today. I'm really excited to take some of those lessons and apply those to some of the stuff we're doing. So I'm sure everyone else is probably feeling the same way.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Happy to help. I look forward to following up, and I look forward to actually seeing all of you in person at a date to be announced at some time soon. Who knows when that will be.
Right. The next hug in 2022 that we get to be together.
Oh, Lord, don't say that, please.
Knock on wood here.
2022.
Right. Awesome. Well, thanks, everyone. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. And like GB said, we've got all the resources on his site, and then we'll send out a recap email as well.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you again,
Take
GB.
care.
We appreciate it. Bye, guys.
Yeah.